Hi, I'm Sarah Franklin with In the Buff Wellness, and I've been on a carnivore diet for 7 years, over 7 years. And there's so much I've learned, not only by working on myself, but working with hundreds of clients. And I'm going to share with you some of the reasons that carnivore works and when it doesn't, and also, when carnivore is not going to work. I'm also going to share when I was wrong about a carnivore diet. So, over 7.5 years ago, I started eating only meat. I came from a ketogenic approach. And when I went keto, I actually lost my cycle. I lost a ton of hair. And I thought, what is going on? I stopped eating sugar. I cut the carbs. I'm eating protein. I'm eating as much protein as I was before. So, starting my low carb journey, I cut out carbohydrates and I initially lost some weight, and a lot of that was water weight. I was still prioritizing my thought protein and eating lots of fatty treats and avocados and nut butters. So my keto was not ketosis, but what I thought was a keto diet. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. So when they go carnivore, they actually see even better results. And this was something that happened to me too, because when I started keto diet, but I was probably not ketogenic, and I'll discuss that. I started losing my hair. My hair was falling out like crazy, and I didn't understand why. Almost everybody said I needed more fat, so I did that, and it didn't stop. And my energy was low, and my workouts were really tough. I had no energy. I thought this was just adapting and fat adapting, but it was rough for me. But I still felt better than when I was eating standard American diet. And even before that, I was eating relatively clean and healthy, like more of a Whole 30 approach. I was eating whole foods. So I did see improvements when I cut all carbohydrates. But the thing that I think I now know and where I was wrong is that we don't need more fat to be ketogenic. And this is the difference. I was wrong about using fat as fuel versus using body fat as fuel. So, dietary fat is not body fat. And when you add tons of dietary fat, you're going to be very full and you're not going to be tapping into your own body fat. And you're probably underdoing protein. So, when you prioritize these fatty foods and fat bombs, like I was doing on that keto diet, that's why I was losing my hair. I even lost my cycle. When I was eating extreme amounts of fat, my cycle stopped. And this is what I thought was crazy. Um, Even when I went fully carnivore, everything got better. I started prioritizing protein. I was eating all the meat. Had energy. I lost body fat. I worked out great in the gym. I had strength, and my workouts were fueled. But and I thought, I was really, really happy. But then I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose this last, let's say 5 pounds, 5 to 10 pounds. It really wasn't much. I just wanted to look as good as I felt. And I felt that I was working really hard, that I could have looked a little bit more optimal, if that makes sense, or just really stood out. So I started tinkering, and there were people out there saying you need a 1-to-1 protein to fat, fat to protein ratio. You need more fat. Fat is your fuel. And when I did this, not only did I have severe stomach issues and loose stools, but I was having sleep issues. I was waking up at night. My energy was not as great. I just felt nauseous. One time I woke up, I remember thinking I had the flu because I was so nauseous. And eating very high fat did not work for me. I'm not saying carnivore diet is low fat. Like, I'm not eating tuna fish and shrimp and chicken breast because that's not full of many nutrients. But when you are prioritizing fat instead of protein, this is where problems lie. And I even had clients, you do that as well. Hey, you're not sleeping, add some fat, add some fat. And that was always the answer. And until I really went back to school and understood how everyone is bio individual of what they need at that time, that I really understood this. So it's not that one person needs high fat and another person needs high protein. It's where they are in the journey. So you still need the exact same proper carnivore diet, and it should be structured to prioritize protein, but it doesn't mean that we would eat the same amount of protein. It doesn't mean that somebody who is severely overweight with a lot of fat to lose should eat pounds of meat a day if they're not hungry for it, if they're sedentary. So it's really a spectrum. Just as, all people have feet and need to wear shoes, you're going to have different shoe sizes. So this is where one size doesn't fit all, but the foundations are the same because you do need to prioritize protein no matter what your journey is. You just may not need as much of it if you're very sedentary, and you may need way more than you think if you're very active. And when I work with a lot of people that are go, 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 carnivore seems to draw a lot of people that are trying to just be perfect and optimal and are really prioritizing their health. They're type A and they just want to do everything exactly the way they should. So they're working out. They are, maybe even getting sunshine and kind of going down the rabbit hole of all these other natural therapies and things to live more like we would ancestrally, which is awesome. But they're often trying to do too much. So if you're working out every day and you're not fueling appropriately, these are the clients I often see because they started not feeling their best or wanting to cut more body fat. They heard some blanket generic advice from a carnivore influencer saying eat more fat or add a stick of butter or, their favorite doctor or anything like that. And it's so wrong. And I just have to be honest because I've seen this time and time again, and that's when people think they need to add carbs. And the fit, lean athletes that can no longer sustain carnivore, they are adding fruit and they feel better. Well, yeah, their glucose was too low. And this is why I work one-on-one because we can track that. We can see where you're at. If you want to know actual metrics to know exactly what you need, that's where I can teach you to figure this out on your own. And why I call carnivore with a K. So it's still carnivore. That is my program to help you figure this out. And you not only are getting an on-demand course over 3 hours of content, but I will work with you as well. You get some personalized support with me because you're not in it alone. And I'm there to help you understand this for life. So I was wrong about adding fat to lose fat. The reason that high fat carnivore can work, it's temporary. You're going to be losing some body fat potentially. It could be water weight. And when you do cut calories, we know that you can lose some body fat. But the second you add things back in or you add more, that's when the body adapts and it's going to then add fat. So when you undereat protein, when you're in a starvation mode for too long in chronic deficits, your metabolism slows down. And this is what people miss. It's not that carnivore doesn't work. It does. It works. It's just you need to make sure that you are fueling appropriately. Intermittent fasting, maybe you think that's really good and it can be. But if you're overdoing it and still under eating, then you're still too low of glucose. Active people have a higher demand for glucose. And when you're not eating carbohydrates, your body relies on protein to meet that need. When people use protein restriction on top of carb restriction and to maintain this high nutritional ketosis, or a calorie restriction, it's a recipe for muscle loss. And that will tank your metabolism because muscle burns more fuel at rest than fat. And you want to have more muscle on your body. And that comes from protein. So the level of ketosis matters. And this is why it's not just a one size fits all. It is bio individual for where you're at in your journey. Um, I'm a nutritionist and I see this every day. So if you are making these mistakes, please try to prioritize protein, get adequate fat. And there's more to it. There's more to just eating protein and fat. There's your meal timing, your metabolism, and your hormones that are at the root of this. And this is why two people can both eat carnivore and one can see results and the other doesn't. The carnivore method, which is my protocol, is not about following what I do or what someone else does. It's about learning how your body responds to food. It's using your metabolism, your hormones, your hunger. And if you choose glucose and ketones as your guide, you can create a strategy that's personalized instead of, copying what worked for someone else. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need more support, please comment below. Tell me what's worked for you. Were you overdoing fat and not losing body fat and gaining weight even? Were you, trying too lean? Because that could be a problem too if you're eating only lean protein and expecting, to still feel good and feel your hormones. Because there are things that can happen on the extremes. Too much fat, not enough glucose, you're going to have complications. Too low fat and very, very lean protein, same thing. This is not about extremes. This is finding the balance to give you the protein your body needs, enough glucose to meet those demands, because you're now using that for both protein needs like your muscle and other hormones, but also your glucose in your body, and adequate fat to keep you not hungry, food noise down, feel your hormones, but not so far to the other extreme where it's so much fat that you can't get enough protein and you're full and your glucose is too long and you can lose your cycle in hair and muscle. So I hope that helped. Please let me know if you have other videos that you may want to see, and I will see you again soon.